Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar today. My name is Tracy Oppenheimer, and I run content here at Helpshift. And we're really excited you're joining us for Omnichannel is Dead. It's time to embrace the era of conversations. Now, we're going to be hearing in just a moment from a true luminary, Shep Hyken. Shep's a New York Times bestselling author and renowned speaker on all things customer service. He'll be chatting with Helpshift's own Chief Strategy Officer and founder, Abinash Tripathy. Abinash has been shaping the vision and execution of Helpshift since 2011, which today offers a full conversational messaging platform complete with turnkey AI and bots, all of which are specifically designed for customer service. So I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items before we get started. Please submit any questions in the Zoom Q&A box. If for some reason we don't get to your question, we'll make sure to get it answered following the webinar. We'll also have an ebook that provides really thorough explanations, benefits, and use cases under the Omnichannel is Dead premise. So we'll be sending that out with the recording of the webinar as well. So keep an eye out for that. And now let me hand it over to Shep.
Well, thank you very much, Tracy. It's great to be here. Excited that we're going to have a conversation with Abinash about this whole paradox of choice and is omnichannel really alive or dead? And let's just start off with a few comments before we get into the interview with Abinash. Omnichannel, I think, is becoming an antiquated term. It's a term that means like multiple channels, and all these companies out there who feel like we need to be omnichannel, we need to be multi-channel. What does that mean? We've got to be everywhere the customer is. And I'm not going to disagree that it's important to be where the customer is, but I believe that omnichannel has changed from the standpoint of what the customer expects. Really, a customer doesn't necessarily need lots of choices. And here we have this gentleman walking through a grocery store, and I think of that guy, other than he has a whole lot more hair than I actually do, he looks very confused, which is what happens to me when I go into a grocery store. Just tell my wife saying, go get a carton of milk, and I'm overwhelmed by all the choices of milk. I didn't know there was whole milk, skim milk. Okay, I knew that. But what did I know about almond milk, goat's milk, all this different kind of milk, and milk that doesn't even come from animals anymore. It comes from nuts. Anyway, omnichannel doesn't mean multiple channels per se to the customer. The customer only cares about one thing, and that is, can they get to the company that they're trying to reach? So it's really that simple. And I'll add something else. It may be different from one time. If they're on their computer at the office, well, that desktop may be where and how they want to reach out to a company. Yet if they're sitting at home or they're out in the field somewhere, their phone is the closest mode. And by the way, we call it a phone, but it's used for less and less. And now this next slide shows, go back one more. The next slide shows all these phone numbers. And here's an example of a brand that says, hey, let's give customers a choice in how they reach out to us. We've got our customer service number. And then we've got, if you want to pay a bill number, and if you want to buy a gift card number, and if you got a prepaid card. I mean, there's all these choices. Come on, one simple number gets us there. Or how about this? One simple method gets us there. So keep in mind. So there was a study done back in 2015 that incorporated 99 different studies, and they were able to isolate that the different choices that customers had, they thought was most likely to boost sales. And what happened is it identified 4 key factors. There was choice, complexity, decision difficulty, preference, uncertainty, and the decision at the end, what should happen. So here is my thought to anybody that's in marketing and sales for sure. The confused customer is not going to buy. To anybody that's in a solutions environment, the confused customer is going to become frustrated. And before the customer even connects with your brand, they're going to be frustrated with you before they ever have any interaction, regardless of the channel that they reach out on. All right. So on the other hand, there is a new digital format. But first, take a look at this before we go any further. This is from a website, and it shows how frustrated people are about how long they've been on hold. I mean, look at the first one. Nice. Well, I don't want to say that, but 34 minutes on hold, listening to the same 2 blank songs, and then you hang up on me. Okay. It's so frustrating. Well, you can see there's so many different problems when you put a customer on hold, because customer might have said, I need help. They're actually not even ready to complain. They just say, I need help. And when they call and they're put on hold, by the time somebody gets to them, and even if it's been 10 minutes, To a customer, 10 minutes seems like almost an eternity. We do an exercise sometimes in some of the speaking engagements or the training sessions my trainers deliver, and we ask people to close their eyes for just a moment when I say go, or the trainer says go, they close their eyes, and about 30 seconds later I say, open your eyes. And we ask our audience members, how long do you think you had your eyes closed? It was 30 seconds. We have people saying 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. No, it's only 30 seconds. It just seems that being put on hold, it becomes, it's an it's a big word. Anyway, it exacerbates the whole situation and makes it feel like it's a lot longer. And you know what? Phone, if you think about it, it's hard to scale it. It's $6 to $12 for a typical phone interaction for a support center. And there's alternative ways. Now, at the end of the day, there are newer technologies like digital channels, like live chat. But here's the thing about live chat. Live chat is just a little bit different than a phone. Here's a great slide. You're currently number 7 in queue with an estimated 47 minutes waiting time. You know what? If I want to wait 47 minutes to get my question answered, I would absolutely wait 47 minutes just to ask the question. I don't want to get on here and be told. So other channels like live chat, well, you know, it's an alternative. But really what's happening today is we're in the messaging era, and specifically the conversational era is what we're going to talk about today. We've got live chat, but how about a different kind of chat? How about a messaging system? And with that, that's why we have this big conversation that we're going to have today. Abinash, you've got a lot to say on this topic. It's the new era. It's the conversational customer service. And I know a lot about your company, but I want you to share with our people listening today. Define in your terms what conversational customer services are and some of the comments that you might have based on what I just shared.
Thank you, Shep. That was a wonderful monologue on the state of customer service today. You know, when I founded this company in 2011, as a digitally savvy, digitally native consumer, I was basically frustrated with customer service with any brand that I engaged with. It was so frustrating. It's
There's
all the
not
problem.
one brand that gave what? I mean, was there a brand that gave you service that you wished everybody could have been excited about, or could excite you and would excite everybody?
There is one brand that's really got it tooled out, and that's Amazon, and they really know how to do it very well.
At all levels, too.
On all levels.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the other brands are largely failing. In fact, that slide that you showed with the Twitter sort of rants about being on hold, the number one offender on this website used to be Apple last year. On average, a consumer held a phone for about 35 minutes with a brand like Apple. And we know what kind of, I mean, Apple is the creator of the Genius Bar. They're known for this phenomenal customer experience. And it turns out they were the biggest offender. And they realized that it was impossible for them to really scale the phone customer service channel. And so they've now basically relegated the phone to a second-class citizen. They have it as the last resort for customers. They've gone ahead and recognized that the world is mostly comprised of digital natives, mm-hmm. and that they need to cater to this digital native population. And so they've turned their customer support into a very digital-first customer support. And so if you really look at all the actions or steps that Apple took in the last year to fix this situation, they went ahead and revamped their entire website, support.apple.com. They launched a app called the Apple Support app, which you can download on any iDevice. They want a customer to basically start their entire journey for customer support in those experiences, the digital experiences, not have to wait on the phone for 40 minutes, then get interrogated by an IVR or by a human being, and then go through another root canal type of exercise, right? So they wanted it to be a very seamless, frictionless digital sort of experience that actually puts messaging first as the first option. So there's a whole bunch of digital self-service options, so a customer can go through those. And if those fail to solve the problem, then it gradually escalates to a messaging-oriented conversational support. And then the last resort channel is the phone. And what's interesting, and if you look at really what Apple and Amazon have done, is they have unpublished their 800 numbers from the websites. You cannot go to Google and search for Amazon's 800 number or Apple's 800 number anymore. It's purely an outbound operation. It's not an inbound operation anymore. You have to start in a digital experience. And if you want the phone, you have to schedule the phone call to be made outbound by the brand to you, so you're not, put on hold waiting. So I think Apple's realized how hard it is to scale phone-based customer service, and that's what this whole conversational world is so exciting. If you really look at the legacy customer service, like you rightly pointed out, phone calls are the most expensive. They're the dinosaurs in our era, right? I mean, they're purely analog systems that are not really designed for this digital era, but they're around. There are lots of dinosaurs still around. And so the phone is like the most expensive channel. If you look at legacy customer service, the way the funnel was built is you drive customers through a phone first, right? And then other options like chat, email, and self-service were also provided. But nobody ever really thought about what the digital native modern consumer wants. And what the modern consumer wants is something totally different.
It's almost flipped over completely.
It's completely flipped over. So the modern consumer is saying, I don't want to deal with a human. The less human interaction I have, for simple things, right? For complex things, of course, you need human beings in the loop. But for simple things, you and I, right? We want help to be completely like just right there, and something that we can just use on our own. And so you're seeing these modern sort of, self-service channels really get promoted. So Apple's support app is a very good example where they've front, left, and center, they've basically invested in self-service. So that should be the first, channel for a customer to engage is self-service.
Now you have to train your customer to go to self-service first.
Yeah, and I think Apple and Amazon are doing a phenomenal job with that, right? Amazon, you can't really find help on Amazon until you log into their digital experience. It's not available through Google searches. You have to go use the Amazon.com website. You log in as a customer. You have to be identified. They know so much about you because you're logged in that they can literally like cater the help to you. Unlike a phone interaction where you call an 800 number, and the brand knows nothing about you, right?
It's so frustrating sometimes.
Every time.
And I'll tell you what's worse is you get into these support centers and they have, even when you finally talk to somebody, why don't they have the complete history? And I know that's where we're going to get into AI in just a little bit, but I think that's where some of the support we can get from an intelligent assistant in the form of artificial intelligence sometimes can give us a better picture, tell us what the customers typically called about. It can even make suggestions on things the customers should buy. But hey, I get you with Apple. And I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of Apple, but I've never been a fan of their support for the reasons that you've already mentioned, the long hold times. What bothered me also is that if I had a basic question, what they're suggesting I do is go to a store to get the question answered, as opposed to being able to hopefully manage it without having to go to the store. And so that was frustrating. Still, what amazes me is that they always rated very high in customer service. Now, again, I'm a fan. I use their products, and they've got great products. But what happened is Apple recognized the opportunity to get better. They already had a great rating, even with some of what I would call the flawed experience. But now they improved on greatness by switching to a more digital experience. And Abinash, we can go back probably 10 to 15 years. And I'd like to just talk about the airlines for just a moment. The airlines created a self-service solution, and that was buy your ticket online so you don't have to talk to a reservationist. Check in online so you don't have to go to the ticket agent unless you, of course, have bags you need to check. And you basically, what happens is you don't have to talk to anybody in the airlines until you actually get to the airplane. And people would say, wow, is that good or bad? And the response to that, in my mind, is it's great. But in order for that to have happened, they had to train the customer. And they did it with incentives. They gave us extra miles or $25 less than if you called on a reservation. And all of a sudden, there was a tipping point where the majority of customers now use that system. And I think that's what Apple and Amazon and these others are trying to do. And what's going to happen in the near future with everything you're going to talk about in just a few minutes is you're going to see there's going to be a tipping point. And the phone is going to become less and less desirable. Again, always there for an escalated support issue. But initially, they want to get the fastest, quickest answers to the questions, they being the customers. So I know I've interrupted you. Go ahead. I got excited with what you were saying.
That's perfect. I love that you can jump in and like we share the same mind almost on this slide, is that the modern customer, we all agree, wants to be served on their own. And then we should, like, bots, again, that's a very interesting discussion, right? Mm-hmm. So bots, I think, Facebook is the culprit there. They kind of made it this phenomenal technology that could be very useful to customers. They made it something that is just not trusted anymore, right? Because their approach was so wrong. They got the industry on this tangent, and then now we're through this hype cycle that actually is going through a trough of disillusionment. But in reality, bots are pretty phenomenal technology. If you look at what's going on in China with brands like WeChat, they've got about 250,000 bots deployed on WeChat. In China, Airlines sells more tickets using their WeChat bot than on their website. There's crazy utility in bots, but then unfortunately we have this company in the Valley called Facebook that just hyped this technology and caused this huge, trough of disillusionment. I think what we're going to see, my prediction is in the next, 5 years, bots are going to be front and center of customer service.
I think it's sooner than that. I think.
Yeah, well, I'm saying like, we're powering our customers with bots today, right? But what I'm saying is in 5 years, it will be everywhere, right? That's my prediction. I do agree with you that it's a here now thing, right? And then messaging, it's very interesting. Messaging is very different from live chat. I want to impress on everyone that live chat was simply a recreation of the phone medium where people had to get in line, wait, repeat themselves, get handed off, repeat themselves again. And messaging is so different. Messaging, if you really think about messaging and what it is, you should just go to your daily life and how you interact with your friends, right? Using something like iMessage or Facebook Messenger, right? In iMessage, basically you send off a message to your wife, and if she's available to chat with you right there, you're going to see 3 dots animate on your screen.
Right, let you know she's typing back.
Yeah, and when you know she's typing back, it triggers a dopamine response in your brain, and you're like, she still loves me, right?
It does.
So
it does.
All these messaging
smile.
apps, yeah, and all these messaging apps, what they do is they've programmed our brains to react to the dopamine, right? And so we love these little 3-dot animations and all of the little things, the like buttons, and all of these things that messaging has introduced to the world as normal consumers. Now, these consumers are saying, that's how I want to interact with brands. I don't want to wait in line. Waiting in line triggers a negative response, a stress response in the brain, right? The phone and live chat trigger like stress responses in your brain and not dopamine responses or serotonin responses, which what modern messaging is all about. And that's why consumers want to engage with brands. And our big customer, which is Microsoft, they use Helpshift widely in the Office product line. And after running their support operations on messaging for the last 3 years, they have been able to achieve something that's phenomenal. Their cost per engagement on messaging with a customer is $1. That's unheard of in the customer service industry, right? On $1, they're able to provide human level support, where here's the other key part. Customer satisfaction rating is through the roof. So we measure every support interaction for Microsoft, and they basically are tracking 4.7 out of 5 on the CSAT scale for every customer that they service, which is unheard of in the industry. So not only have we brought the cost of serving customers down to $1, the CSAT is tracking so high that, Microsoft and all these customers that use Helpshift are benefiting hugely from it. And of course, phone then becomes the last channel of resort. And so the funnel is truly inverted.
Right. So the phone, I'm going to make sure I understand this stat, the dollar stat, because I'm very intrigued. By the time they hit the phone, if they even have to hit the phone, that's really where the money's kicking in. That's when you're saying the cost per call at that point when they're on the phone is escalating to $6 to $12 per incident. However, if you can get a customer's question answered or their problem resolved before they ever hit the phone, that's what's bringing that average down. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, absolutely. So what we're seeing is more and more brands are going to, invert the funnel, go very heavy on self-service and bots, drive customers through a messaging funnel. And if they really need to talk to an agent on the phone, then that becomes the last channel of resort, and it becomes an outbound channel. More and more, we're seeing the phone become an outbound channel, not an inbound channel.
And I love that if you look at what Amazon is doing, I know whenever we have a question or a problem, we go on the website and we try to resolve it digitally, but if we can't, we hit a button and we get a note. Are you going to be available for Amazon to call? And literally, almost when we say yes, most of the time, I'm telling you, it seems like, how did they dial the phone so quickly? Boom, the phone rings, and there it is. It's Amazon on the phone, Mr. Amazon himself.
Right.
But seriously, that's the way it works. So, I mean, you could take a look at that slide. It really illustrates, a nickel for frequently asked questions. And by the way, the FAQ question section needs to be done really, really well. And I'll throw another idea in here is that questions don't have to be text-based. They can be video-based. And sometimes video-based questions are powerful. And what we are looking at here is at the top of the funnel, we're starting with frequently asked questions. When we're digital, less digital, now we're in messaging, we hit the phone, and that's live. What happens is when there's a friction point at any of these digital solutions, at the friction point is when you have to flip to the human. Ideally, it's seamlessly and quick. And then ideally, when the human finally does pick up the phone, they have a record of what's been going on so it doesn't have to repeat it again. But on the flip side, sometimes when the human is talking to the customer, or when I say the human, the customer service rep is talking to the customer, human to human, it's sometimes at a friction point easier to flip them over to a digital channel. Let me send you an email, and in the email are two links. One's going to give you a long explanation about what's happening, but the other one is a video that will actually walk you through step by step. Now we're sending them back to the FAQ section with video support. So it does work both ways. And by the way, at that point, when we send that customer back to video, we're going to emphasize this is where you need to go first next time. So you don't have to go through waiting on hold, me asking a lot of questions before we can finally even begin to start to resolve your issue.
Absolutely. I totally, the bot or the machine to human interplay in a customer service contact center is really important. That's why this whole world of messaging and bots is very exciting. I want to talk about really what's going on, right? Why has the world suddenly changed? And what we all will agree is that 4 billion citizens on this planet now are mobile natives, right? They all have mobile phones. And as screen size has shrunk, here's some research that we found that basically says as screen size has shrunk, the average session length is 72 seconds. And that's how long people are willing to wait inside a single screen or a single app inside the phone. And so they use very short, sessions and do it multiple times a day. That's the behavior. And that's why these long 40-minute sort of, put your life on hold things don't work, right? Mm-hmm. And so these consumers have totally embraced this new medium called messaging. If you look at the numbers of how messaging is used, it's the number one sort of communication channel, all over the world. If you count all the users across all the over-the-top messaging apps, WeChat, WhatsApp, iMessage, Facebook, Messenger, that's 4.1 billion people on the planet who use over-the-top messaging, right? And 500,000 bots have been deployed across all of these messaging platforms. So if you count all the bots across WeChat, across Facebook Messenger, Telegram, right, 500,000 bots are already in production that people are finding great utility in their lives. So this conversational thing is very, very real. And so I really want to define what conversational service means, right? So conversational service really means that a customer who starts his whole experience today digitally never needs to leave the digital channel, right? They don't need to, if they were inside an app or on a website and trying to interact with the product or service, they don't need to drop that, get led to a phone number, call the phone, right? It all happens within that digital channel or digital experience. The second really important part about conversational service is that it's about conversations, not cases, right? You don't need to walk into the police station, ask them to open a file on you, right? That's how brands treat customers today. Is you need to walk into, customer service. They're going to open a file on you. They're going to ask you 50 questions that don't have to do anything. It's not like, sending a message to a friend and then waiting for the 3 dot to animate and the dopamine trigger in your brain, right? So it's all about conversations, not cases. The other beautiful thing about the conversational experience, if you've experienced this on your iMessage, Shep, is that if you started a conversation on your iPhone, when you go home and you turn your Mac on, right, the iMessage conversation continues on your Mac.
Yep.
It's a continuous experience across channels.
Where you are, when you need it, it's like what's closest to you. And I think that's the point I was trying to make earlier. That's how customers want to communicate. That whole omni-channel thing has nothing to do with all the different choices. It has to do with where I'm at as a customer at that moment and what's the easiest way for me to get to you. I don't have to choose it. I just want to do it.
Right. And that's the problem with omni-channel. Omni-channel is truly broken because omni-channel fragments the entire experience. So it says you can go to the phone. Okay, we couldn't solve your problem on the phone. You're going to have to come back later. Then you jump on to another channel. It's like reset. The whole conversation has been reset, right? You have to identify yourself. You have to explain yourself again. Hopefully you have a case number that you can refer to because there's a file on you, right? And unless you can find that, give the person to continue the conversation, you need to quote that file number. If you don't quote the file number, it's lost in the system, right? And that's why they have to open up a file on you. Whereas this conversational experience says there is no file on you. We just know you because across every channel, digital channel that you choose to engage with, you're using almost the same experience. We've identified you. We don't need to interrogate you. You can continue exactly where you left off. You don't need to reset the conversation. You simply restart it, right? So omni-channel is all about start a conversation, reset, start another conversation.
So here's a question for you. If I decide I'm on Facebook and I message you through Facebook, and then I decide to message you through, I don't think I would, but what if I decided to switch to WhatsApp or even, iMessage, whatever kind of messaging? What if I switch between those channels?
Yeah. So third-party channels are really going to be hard to provide this continuous experience.
Right.
Because more and more what we're seeing is because of GDPR and all the privacy related issues with Facebook, identity is becoming a big deal. So third-party channels are going to be really hard to do a continuous experience. And that's why omni-channel has never really worked because every channel is sort of fragmented and you cannot really unite them. But the way we do it is we provide an embedded experience, a digital experience, which is messaging that can be embedded in your website, or in your mobile app. And so it carries that conversation seamlessly across all of these channels. So third-party channels are going to be really hard to do a continuous experience, right? Mm-hmm. I think GDPR has thrown a big monkey wrench into this whole experience because it's going to force brands to really think about privacy in a big way.
Right, how they're using it. And by the way, this GDPR is in Europe, but not for long. It's coming here and it's coming everywhere because they just are starting to try to set the standard for what privacy is. So we've got to be very clear what we're doing, and we don't want to abuse that. And by the way, the moment you abuse the privacy of customer, guess what the customer does? They don't trust you and they walk.
Absolutely right. So then the other aspects of conversational customer service is it's got to be intelligent, right? When you have the world talking to you just like they're your friends, right? There's no friction. You don't have to wait. They're just able to message you like they would their friends. That's going to put a lot of burden on brands to be very, very responsive. And so that sort of responsiveness you can't get out of humans. It doesn't matter how many people you have in the contact center to support that volume, you're just not going to be able to get the efficiencies out of human beings, right? The minute you put humans in the middle, it's just going to drive a bunch of inefficiencies. So the only way to do it is through machines and machine intelligence. So AI is going to play a huge role there, and bots that are, not these sort of intelligent smart bots the way Facebook wanted the world to do bots, but more seamless, decision tree custom bots. I mean, my best example again there is Amazon. If you haven't used the Amazon Prime customer support chat inside your mobile app, you should do it today just to see how well those bots have been implemented that really, really solve customer problems without humans and seamlessly escalate to the human, right? So bots can be frustrating if they don't have a clean human handoff, right? And so what Amazon's done brilliantly is they've not gone the way of, these AI NLP bots that are trying to be too clever, right? The way IBM's attacked, like with Watson, the whole IBM Watson bot strategy is a disaster, right? And that's what's caused this whole, trough of disillusionment. And then you see Amazon flawlessly executed, even though they have the biggest sort of investment in NLP, they've done it right. So that's what the conversational experience is all about. So really, in a nutshell, most brands have digital experiences. Even if there are physical products today, it comes with digital companions, right? So you look at IoT and what it's doing, even if you buy a simple, like, a doorbell in your house, it comes with a little app that allows you to look through the doorbell into the person who's standing in front of your door, right? So everything today, every physical, even a car, let's say you go buy a car, there's no car today that doesn't come with its own digital experience. So to me, every physical world product or service has a digital companion. And those digital companions are an app or a mobile website or a website. And so what Helpshift really does is provides this messaging conversational experience that you can embed in all of these digital experiences that you provide as a brand. And that experience is seamless. It mimics all of the modern messaging experience like iMessage. It has complete with the 3 dots. We've taken care of all the dopamine triggers for humans, right? It's continuous across devices. So if you're using the Helpshift experience as a brand on your website, on your mobile app, a customer can start their conversation in their mobile app, continue it on a website later, and it starts from the point where they left off in the other channel. It's not fragmented, it's not disjoint, there's no reset. So those are all the best of what we brought into this whole conversational world from how consumers are actually using this technology today in their daily lives, right? So that's really conversational. The other, so Shep, did you have a question there?
Yeah, I want to jump in, and I just have some what I would call, for lack of a better term, almost logistical type questions, because when we're talking about the customers now interacting with Helpshift's support, and that's machine-based, it's bot and some basic things. We see those little dots. Are we trying to fake the customer out to make them think they're dealing with a human, or are we? Do you feel ethically there's an issue there? Do we feel we need to be transparent?
What an amazing question, Shep, and it's the right question for this sort of dialogue, right? So we provide, first of all, we're a conversational platform that enables consumers to talk to human agents. Mm-hmm. And in the middle, we have some intelligence to make that whole process very efficient, right? But the biggest advice we're giving to our customers is to never, ever fake a bot interaction as a human interaction, right? A bot should be identified as a bot, right? Not as a human. What Google did, 2 weeks ago at Google I/O when they displayed.
I saw that.
When they showed duplex was uncanny. In fact, we did a survey recently where we went and asked consumers, what they thought of that. And 65% of the consumers came back and said, that was uncanny. That was like so bad. I don't want any sort of AI technology to mimic me, right? Or to fool somebody else, right? So our advice to brands is to never, ever make a bot interaction appear as a human interaction, right?
Yep. So a cute little story. I was at an event, I'm going to say about a month or so ago, and somebody mentioned that on the LL Bean website, the answers are great. If you ask during the chat, are you a human or a chat bot? If it's a chat bot, now, by the way, I'll tell you, there's a punchline to this, so to speak. The chat bot will respond, I am a chat bot, but like Pinocchio, one day I want to grow up to be a human. And I thought that was funny. So what I did is while the guy was talking, I went onto the LL Bean website and I said, okay, what is the simplest question that I could possibly ask? What is your warranty? And an answer came back. And then I said, are you a chatbot or a human? And the answer was, I'm a human. Why do you ask? I don't want to talk to a human. So I cannot verify that that's what LL Bean is doing when to try to hit that ethical standard. Now, another question for you is, those little dots are getting my dopamine and my serotonin going. My question is, how fast or how slow should the answer be in order to not, even though I know I'm dealing with a chatbot, I don't want to become frustrated with too quick of a response. Is there such thing as too quick of a response? Somebody just asked me this the other day. I had an answer, but I want to hear your answer.
Absolutely not. Humans, we live in this world of ADD, right?
That's me.
All these devices have done is made us the most attention deficit.
Mm-hmm.
So the faster, the better but make sure that if a bot is answering, that you identify that it's a bot and not a human. And when the handoff from the bot to a human happens, identify that a human joined the conversation.
100%.
That's exactly how Amazon does it on their chatbots as well.
By the way, my argument was, I'm on your side. I don't think fast is too fast. I think we want answers quick, and we don't want to be faked out. One of the things that frustrates me is when I'm dealing with an IVR or any type of where they repeat back to me the kind of things that I said. It's like, can't we have like a normal conversation? It just seems like I'm talking to a computer. I don't want that. I want it to be quick, fast. And if I have to talk to a human, it's probably going to slow down at that point.
Right. So, and that brings me right to the next slide, which is these forms, right? There's an act in the US called the Paperwork Reduction Act.
Yeah.
Right. And these forms, all we did on the web, right, is we just took what these paper forms were and created a digital version of that. They still are extremely frustrating to a human, right? And a lot of customer service, even digitally today, is just a redux of these paper forms. But bots, they do exactly the same thing. They're trying to get some information from you. They're trying to collect it so they can give you an intelligent answer. But they do it in a very natural, conversational way. And It's not this sort of, form-filling experience, right? So bots are really, I would say, a really great way to like engage customers, right? The other thing I want to talk about AI is that, AI is something that we're using in our lives.
People have no idea that that you ask, they don't, so many people think I never get involved with AI. Yet look at your list here. It's all fueled by AI.
Every consumer service you use on your phone today is AI, right? And we don't even realize how prevalent AI is already in our lives, right? And so that brings us to the topic of bots. And I really think that bots, the way Amazon and we're doing, which is decision trees, really have a huge role to play and work and really delight customers. So then the big question there is, what really happens to these human agents who are sitting in contact centers? It's one of these industries that employs, lots of people. 7 or 8% of the GDP for a country like Philippines is just based on this human contact center model. What really happens to these human beings? What happens to the workforce? So my response there is that all these tier 1 agents that we sort of know and love, they're going to have to upskill or go find other jobs. because bots and AI are going to put them out of jobs very quickly, right? Because there's so much automation that's going to be built into the whole digital customer service process that you won't need so many human agents anymore, right? So then the agent's role becomes a very different role. So they become what I call super agents, right? These super agents essentially are highly skilled individuals, not your frontline tier one, I can speak English agents, but these guys are really skilled and they can solve new and complex problems that bots and AI cannot handle yet. And while they're doing that, the AI that's working alongside them is getting trained by them. So how wonderful that computers become students and agents become their teachers, and they work alongside these computers and train them to learn all these new unique problems that arise in a contact center, so that then the machines can answer customers and not have to escalate to a human, right? Every time there's a new problem. Did you have any questions, Shep? Or
no, but a point, McKinsey came out with a study probably in the last 4 to 6 weeks that indicated all the millions and millions of jobs are going to be lost to AI, but they're really not completely lost. What's the people who don't, as you mentioned, skill up or go find another occupation, but something is creating all of this technology. Somebody has to create it. And as that industry grows, jobs are needed. So these people, in many cases, naturally migrate over. I have a thought in mind, but years ago when they came out with the ATM where you can, be on a street corner and get your money and deposit your check, they thought, okay, we aren't going to need to keep the banks open. We won't need tellers anymore. But you know what? Tellers are still there. ATM did not kill the tellers, just like video did not kill the radio star when MTV came around back in around.
Absolutely right.
So I think you summed this all up, and I know we may have more to talk about, but to sum a point up that you just made, if I am at the airport and you talk about, there's we're eliminating jobs and all of a sudden there's fewer and fewer agents, and that's true, but a lot of these agents are being moved up or moved in other areas. If the plane decides because of bad weather it's not going to take off, it's not just my plane, it's the entire airport. And all of a sudden, there are thousands of people trying to get to a customer service rep. You know what? AI is a phenomenal tool to go into a record locator that the customer or the passenger has assigned to them based on their ticket. It's a number, and it says, okay, this passenger wants to go, I live in St. Louis, Missouri, wants to go to San Francisco, California. You know what? There's 17 other ways the passenger can get there. And of those 17 ways, 9 of them have seats open. I'm going to tell this passenger right now, here are the 9 options. Which one does he or she want to take? And since it's me, I'm going to go, hey, I'll take this one. By the way, this just happened to me on American Airlines. I loved it. It's like they told me the flight was going to be canceled, and they immediately gave me the options. I did not have to call. Had I wanted to call, I would have been put into a queue. Had I wanted to go to the courtesy counter, you don't want to know what that courtesy counter looks like. Hundreds of people are standing there waiting in line. And, it's just absolutely amazing to me how the solutions are getting better and better, and that your type of solution that you're talking about at Helpshift is definitely, it's not the future. It's actually the future is right now. It's happening today. It's just going to become more prevalent and more popular.
Yeah, absolutely. What you're hitting on is proactive, right? So brands today, if you look at customer support, they are extremely reactive.
Yep.
Right? And what you're saying is because we live in this digital era and everything we interact with is digitally, configured, right? It is easy to detect any change from the normal. And when that change from normal happens, then it's so easy for a brand to go turn that situation around and be proactive, get in front of the customer. And I would throw a few more things in. Why would they not just send me a digital meal voucher so I can go grab a meal, right? And do all these crazy things.
Yep.
So
it will all go digital. I think we're hitting that type of thing. And by the way, talk about paperwork reduction. How about just slip of paper reduction? You don't need to give me a voucher. Send me the QR code or whatever kind of code you want to give me. And let me walk up to my favorite pizza stand at a restaurant and show them that. They scan it, and I am a happy person, and I love the airline that I'm doing business with.
That's right. Yep. And so we're also seeing another interesting trend, right? That, companies like us that are bringing in all this efficiency into the contact center, has caused brands that we're working with to reevaluate how they do staffing, right? So I'll give you a small example. Two customers I'll talk about. First is Microsoft. So Microsoft is running a pilot program in the University of Utah. So they've gone in and set up a call center in the University of Utah, or not a, I wouldn't call it a call center, a contact center that's powered by Helpshift, completely digital contact center, right? And they've recruited 200 students out of the University of Utah to come work part-time in those contact centers to do office support. How crazy is that, right? With the phone contact center world, you couldn't really do that. You had to have like physical locations.
Right.
Here, a student part-time can log into Helpshift, answer some support tickets for office, and that experiment has gone so well that Microsoft is scaling that program. You know, another customer we have, Comcast, has also tried this. They're bringing gig workers into the contact center, right? Who can work from home, right? In the world of old phone contact centers, you have to have these big buildings with lots of infrastructure, and people had to come in, punch out, right? And work on shifts. All of that goes away. We have customers, we have a customer that's running their entire customer service operation off from stay-at-home moms, right?
Yep.
So that's what digital does, is sort of disruption.
You mentioned, you know, you're bringing these people into the contact center. You're not bringing them in physically, you're bringing them in digitally. And yeah, so just a clarification. Yep, that's great.
Right. We're bringing them virtually into the contact center.
Virtually, right? Yep.
And then, you know, we talk about sort of long-term trends again. If you look at voice itself is changing, right? Voice used to be the synchronous sort of thing where two people had to be on opposite ends, talking to each other through a tin can. But with digital assistants like the Alexa and Siri and with the car, right? What we're seeing is it's becoming sort of this conversational platform where you don't have to have a live two-way conversation. It's asynchronous, right? And the leading brands like Amazon, we've talked about this, they get it, right? You can go experience the Amazon customer service. You can go see what Apple's doing with their digital support app. So these brands totally get it. And our customers like Microsoft, they're already reaping lots of benefits from doing this sort of conversational customer service. Vivino, another great upstart in the Valley that sells wines. If you haven't used this app, you should. Basically, they're doing phenomenal things with Helpshift. And I think this modern conversational customer service era is here now. Brands just need to wake up to it. Lots of brands are still stuck in their old analog ways of doing things. And so I think we can help all these brands sort of come into this modern era and help them across the customer service journey. And, you know, I'm happy to spend more time with people and explain what this vision is. But if you have any questions, Shep, I'm happy to take that.
No, I think you've done a great job. You've talked to us about, you know, what the state of the industry is. You know, and you say the brands need to wake up. I think they need to do more than wake up. They need to accept that it's happening. You can't fight it. It's here. You know, I couldn't believe one day I heard, and this was a number of years ago, I was at a conference and said, this week, Amazon announced that they're going to go on social media and monitor Twitter. And it's like, now they're doing it. And by the way, I'm not saying they were slow to it. I was just surprised at how even, you know, large, technically savvy, amazingly forward-thinking, innovative brands, it took them so long to get there. And we're seeing a shift now to a whole different way of doing business. And it's all good. It's all for the customer. And if we focus on the customer and focus on reducing friction for the customer and take a look at all, you know, for a general company, take a look at all of the touch points, if you will, or interaction points that the customer has with your company on any type of support and even sales function. Where does the friction happen? Where can you eliminate a step? Where can you make it quicker, faster, and easier? And I will caution all companies who go into this type of thinking that you still need to maintain the relationship. You still need to figure out a way to connect with the customer. Apple's done a phenomenal job. Amazon's done an amazing job. And these are considered technical digital companies. So the point is that if you go too digital and you're not careful, you become a commodity. So figure out a way to still be able to connect. And the way to do that is to have a solution that works, that the customer trusts, and therefore the customer has confidence, confidence is an emotion that leads to loyalty.
Yeah, I think we're almost out of time. So thank you so much, Shep, for joining me on this really interactive and fun webinar. And hopefully we'll do many more.
I hope
Thank
so. And
you.
thanks, Abinash. It's been an
And
honor and a privilege to work with you.
yeah, goodbye.